It's been well documented how successful a year 2023 was in terms of releases, but it also had its dark spots. This week, we're breaking down our expectations for 2024 in the games industry. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who I ripped away from Cyberpunk on his day off so we could record. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, so sorry.
Just when you finally get some time to start playing video games, someone makes you work.
Yeah, some rat bastard comes and rips you away.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll both be grateful for this, though, when we both go back to work tomorrow and don't have to worry about also fitting in the recording. So,
Sure. You
it's
just have to play Cyberpunk tomorrow.
It's been 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, I think, since we last really caught up in terms of our gaming escapades. So what have you been up to? I know you said you were playing some Cyberpunk. What else? Anything else?
Yeah, I played a little bit of Cyberpunk. Getting really invested in that again.
Love it.
Played a little bit of Forza Horizon. Every time I play that game, I'm like, I don't understand why this isn't my killing time game.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much shit that you can do that's like low time commitment. It's fun, like it's brainless, like you don't have to be fully invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's like very few story points, so like you're not missing anything if you're like, you have a game on in the background, like a sports event on in the background and this on the TV or whatever. So played a little bit of that. And I think last time we talked, I told you I was at 99 achievements for the year.
Yes. Yep.
Which I really reflected on. And I know I shouldn't compare myself to greatness, but I think about 99 achievements and how most games, when you get like a platinum or 1,000 gamer score or whatever, it's like generally around 30, 40 achievements, right?
Yeah. I would say it's like normally at least 30. 50 always tends to be like I would say somewhat of a benchmark, but that has definitely changed of late, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like it can be just about anything at this point.
Curse to Golf is like 11. So weird.
I was thinking, I was like, wow, trying my goal of 100 achievements for the end of the year, and like it's not like that was my achievement for the whole year. I just got my Xbox year in review and was like, oh, well, I'm at 99, so I should do something about that. I was like, well, that is really not that impressive. And you put it in the perspective of you getting 69 platinums.
Thank you.
Because that is like, what, probably over 400.
I could pull up my wrap up again to see how many total trophies I earned. It was something stupid.
Anyway, I did do it for whatever it's worth, and I did it by playing Jusant.
Oh, nice.
I guess I technically got to 101, but I think I'm probably going to keep playing that game, because when I was going through to like get the couple easy achievements that I got, I was like, now that I know what I know about this game and I'm better at it, I played like the first level, and I was just like flying through it. Like, this is so much fun now. It was before, but like I can like speed run this thing now.
Mm-hmm.
So I might go through. I'll probably use a guide, because it's a lot of like finding artifacts and such.
Sure.
So I'll probably go through and try to 1,000 gamer score that game. I really enjoyed it.
That's great. That's great to hear. I've heard a lot of good things about it, so I'm definitely excited to eventually get around to it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. And other than that, We played some Super Mario Wonder.
Oh, nice. Great game.
Yep. I think Justine all but 100% of that game. I think there's one thing I don't want to say too much because I think it would be a little bit of a spoiler. But there's like there's one more thing that she has to do, but it's more so for the completionist's sake, not because it like unlocks anything at this point.
Gotcha.
So she spent a lot of time playing that. We bought a bunch of games for Switch.
Nice. Like what?
The Mega Man Battle Network game.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it was like dirt cheap. I forget how much we paid, but it was less than $20, I think.
That's sick.
And shockingly enough, Justine was super excited about that because she was a big Mega Man fan when she was younger. Of course, they had Dreamcast and such. That kind of makes sense. But we bought that. What else did we buy? We talked about buying the new Sonic game. I don't know if we pulled the trigger on it.
Okay.
There was something else we bought too. I can't remember. But yeah, so we spent some money there. It was great. We're super excited about Mega Man.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to get a nice little discount on the PlayStation Store so I can scoop it up because it's like 10 games, isn't it?
It's like, man, it's gotta be. I only played the one, and I think you actually turned me onto that game when we were younger because you had a couple of them. I had like white or something like that. I think they were color themed.
Yeah, well, I know for sure the one that sticks out for me was I had like Team Colonel, and then there was like a Team Other. Like it was like they had Pokemon releases basically, where it was just like
Right.
you got and then some of them were colors, and I think it's like the first one doesn't, and maybe the second one doesn't either, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6 each have like 2 options. So I think it's like 10 games total if I'm like remembering correctly, or it's like 11 games total. I don't know. It's crazy though.
Yeah, there's like Mega Man Battle Network, like just the base through 3. And there's like Transmission Rockman, Chip Challenge, Network 4. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. On the Switch, it's like 2 separate games.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're excited to play through those.
Yeah, those are fun. Yeah, I'm definitely excited to get back to those at some point. Nice. That's great. It's always fun to do a little like take part in the post holiday sales that go on.
Yeah, it was fun for me. Like I would do this as if I had a child and I was telling them about back in the day. Justine and I were going through it, and we went through the list of like I mean, it was like every Switch game was on this list. It was like 7,000 games. And we flipped through just about all of them until we got into like the hentai stuff, and then that's when Justine checked out. And that's when I checked in, baby. I was like,
I'm sorry. Oh. Whew. All right. I'm good.
we were going through the list, and I was telling Justine, I was like, yeah, back in the day, I would go through all these lists after Christmas, and I'd have like all my Christmas money, and I'd buy so many games, and I haven't played a single one.
Still to this day. Oh yeah, it's so true. God damn.
Yeah, it was funny. There were so many games on that list that when we started getting down towards the bottom, like it crashed the store.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Switch could not handle the whole list. So just funny. So yeah. One thing that I forgot to tell you is we played Untitled Goose Game.
Oh, nice.
And we played through that in a night, which was awesome. Just like the base, so there's like extra stuff you can do after you beat it, but that was loads of fun. And we got that on sale for like $4 or something like that. It was stupid.
Yeah, Untitled Goose Game's like been a game that I've wanted to get around to because it just seems like so up my alley, and I still haven't gotten to it yet, but
it's a lot of fun with 2 people.
I can imagine. I think that's on the PlayStation Plus catalog, so I'll be getting around to that this year at some point.
Yeah, it does not take terribly long. I mean, it's kind of what you make it.
Sure.
But,
well, I mean, you know me, I'm going to be going for the trophies and stuff, so that's always a great way of like juicing something a little bit more, and like forces you to take your time a little bit and stuff like that, which is nice. So
I'm not sure what the trophy situation is like for that game. We played it on Switch, so I hope that's something that they add. With this will go in line with I think our conversation today, but I hope that's something they add in the next generation of Nintendo consoles.
That'd be nice.
Anyway, 3 weeks. What did you play?
Well, real quick, I wanted to give you an update. In 2023, I earned 2,796 trophies.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, my wrap up I know is like a little wrong because it says I only have 69 platinums, and I documented every single. I think the 2 platinums I got on my Vita aren't picked up in the wrap up. So, but I also think I should be at 70 now because Shelby and I platinumed. We had started Lego Harry Potter like I don't know how long ago at this point, and we finally like got back into it, and we cleaned that up finally. Which the Lego games are just always such a freaking hoot and a holler. So, that was fun. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh. This is actually big. I finished Baldur's Gate 3.
Really?
Yeah, finally finished it. Really just like put my head down and said like I'm gonna, while I have some time off and stuff, like I'm going to beat this game. Fantastic game. I'm actually like already looking forward to playing it again. And there's a decent bit that I know I can kind of do differently, and then I actually already have like a 3rd playthrough planned as well. So the 2nd playthrough is probably going to be with Shelby. And we're probably going to do it like cooperatively. And then I also started a co-op campaign with my brother that we haven't touched in a little bit. So, but yeah, like playing the game cooperatively is definitely interesting and fun. And yeah, I look forward to kind of playing it a little bit different with Shelby. And then there's you can like start out as effectively like a bad character, and yeah, I'm interested to see how a playthrough of that goes. So, with all that said, I'm sure I'll try and get the platinum. Though you do have to play the game on the hardest difficulty, and I got to one point where I was really close to turning the difficulty down. I was just playing on there's 3 levels, so I was just playing on the middle difficulty, and I was really close towards the end to turning it down. I was like maxed out already, and I was having a real tough time. But I was able to kind of brute force my way through. But yeah, it's a great game, fantastic game. Couldn't recommend it enough. Go back and listen to our Starfield Baldur's Gate episode if you're interested, because I think I did a fairly good job of breaking it down and explaining who it's for and who it's not and stuff like that. So trying to think what else. Shelby and I have been playing a decent bit of have you ever played the Super Monkey Ball games?
In passing, I've never played through a whole one.
Yeah, okay. So there was like a remaster, remake, whatever, that they like bundled, I think like 3 or 2 of the old games into one game, and they released it on newer consoles. So we were playing that, and it's fun. Like they're kind of mindless, you know, and like we just kind of swap the controller back and forth through levels, and we're trying to like 100% the missions for each level and stuff like that. Which they're a nice level of challenging, and also like kind of just like mindless. Like to complete each level, I would say is like easy in and of itself, but then there's like complete the level in like 10 seconds and stuff like that, which is like the challenge part, and really fun. So yeah, we've been playing that a little bit. And I think lastly, and it's been the game that I've probably been playing the most since finishing Baldur's Gate, I got Hogwarts Legacy. And I wanted to say, like, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit because there's a bit of an outcry about it potentially being a snub for Game of the Year. And I know I only played 3 of the nominees, but based on everything else, I think it's very fair that this game was not nominated for Game of the Year or many awards. It's pretty incredible in some of its aspects, but at the same time, there's a lot that I'm just kind of like very whatever about with it. Yeah, I don't know. It's impressive. It definitely has parts of it that I'm just like, wow, I can't believe they like that this is a game. But then there's other times, like especially with like dialogue and like character interactions, where I'm just kind of like, all right, yeah, all right, just gonna go to my potions class, I guess.
Avada Kedavra, everybody.
No, not yet. I didn't unlock that spell yet. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go about baking that into the story and stuff like that. But yeah, so started diving into that, and I'm sure it'll take me a decent bit to get through. And yeah, I think that's just about it. The only other thing is, I don't know if I told you about this, but I am ramping up. I'm going to attempt to get 100 platinums this year.
Oh yeah.
And the way I'm going to do that is, so I'm like creating a challenge for myself, and I'll be streaming most of it. But the challenge is to only use games that are actively on the PlayStation Plus catalog. Or like games that are given in the year 2024 as like the monthly giveaway games, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like if I start a game and I don't finish it before it leaves, like I can't just buy it to finish it. And I can't play a game and get the like if I get the platinum in Hogwarts Legacy and then it's added, like that platinum doesn't count, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So yeah, you know, if this is something that interests you, dear listener, this Saturday is going to be the kickoff for it, January 6th. And I'll be streaming live from Washington, D.C. on the steps of the Capitol building. Now, yeah, so I'm going to kick off, and I don't know how long I'm going to do, but the goal is to try and do, there are a lot of really dumb games. I spent way too much time researching to figure out like the games that are going to be the shortest to do. Oh, also I can't auto pop. So if it's a PS5 and PS4, I have to play the PS5 version first. Or if I play the PS4 version, I can't just like move the save up, right?
Gotcha.
Because you know, then it would actually be a lot easier.
I can't believe auto pop is still a thing. I figured they would have like patched that somehow.
Yeah, get it out of here.
Yeah.
You're lazy. So I think I'm going to be starting with My Friend Peppa Pig. Should take me about an
Nice.
hour. So yeah, so there's yeah, so it should be really I mean, it should be funny and fun, and there should hopefully be some charming games in there somewhere. But yeah.
I heard a ton of people playing that game.
Oh, really?
I think it was on. It might still be on Game Pass. Like I saw tons of people in the Xbox community playing it. They're like, it's actually kind of fun.
There you go. So I'll report
I
back.
think Brad Sams was actually a big one. He was like playing it, and then his kid was watching.
Yeah, that tracks from like a family perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll be reporting back on that. I won't bore with like all the details, but that's one of my challenges this year.
Well, I will procure you another trophy next year.
Okay, great.
If you do it.
It's the only reason I'm still in the game is so that I can hopefully get something else out of it.
There you go.
Yeah,
look at that. Game Pass. Maybe I'll play it.
How about it?
You telling me there's a platinum for this?
I'm telling you there is. And I can get two. Because there's a PS4 and a PS5 platinum.
Well.
Hot dog.
Hot dog indeed is what that pig will be by the end of it.
All right. Enough about that nonsense. Let's talk about our expectations for the games industry for 2024. Shall we?
Sure.
I guess to kind of like start it off, is there anything, if we wanted to like do a quick focus on the big three, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, is there anything glaring that you expect from any of them this year?
Well, I guess to ride the hype train, the some degree of unsubstantiated hype claim, I do think we're going to see some new Xbox hardware this year. I feel like we'll probably hear something about it soon. I expect at the very least new controllers.
Okay.
That seemed pretty realistic. So they were, I forget. It was one of the documents that was leaked during the trial, but a little bit of a different, like, not a different button layout, but different like controller feel design, I guess. Still similar, but a little more modern looking.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that's really cool about it is it's going to be Wi-Fi enabled, which is a play they're taking out of the Stadia playbook. So if you play games on XCloud, it'll be a better connection. Long story short.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that feasibly happening, maybe even before halfway through the year. I think the big question is just whether or not people talked about a dickless Series X with some small upgrades. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think because it was leaked that they are working on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much been confirmed. I just don't know when it's going to come out, and I kind of think they'll push it back now.
Yeah, I can't remember if we said 2024 is when PlayStation was going to be releasing their like effectively PS5 Pro, because they just like launched the Slim line towards the tail end of the year, and I believe they have a like showcase of some sort coming up in like the coming weeks. So maybe we'll get more information from the PlayStation side of things. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and it's like crazy to think how like these consoles came out in 2020, right? Tail end of 2020. So it's like crazy that the Pro release and like the midlife release as the name implies, normally happens midway through the cycle. It's just crazy to think that we're already at that point, because I think there are a lot of times where you and I have mentioned that, based on like releases and stuff like that, at times it doesn't feel like we should be at that point yet. We've talked about that pretty extensively.
I was reading, and I apologize, I forget who it was, but an opinion piece in that the console cycle is essentially going to be reset within the next year or two.
Okay.
And that the PS5 and the Series X were essentially, and I know there was like the One X and the PS4 Pro, but the PS5 and the Series X are essentially going to be like considered the final upgrade to that generation. And that whatever comes out next, what people are calling the PS5 Pro or the Series X Pro, whatever, is like going to be a totally new console.
Interesting.
And like it feels a little far fetched, but I would not like be terribly surprised, to be honest with you.
I mean, as long as the current generation is capable of playing everything through this midlife to end of cycle, like say it has a more extended cycle from the midlife point to your point to the point that you're saying, right? Which is right, that it would from the midlife have basically 7-ish years until the next generation. Is that the implication?
I would say.
Or like give or take. As long as my current PS5 can like play the stuff and like, I don't care a ton, if anything, getting a little more out of a life cycle is not really a bad thing. Especially because looking at the jump from the PS4 to the PS5, so, or the One X to the series consoles. So I don't know, it's interesting. It would be interesting to see if it actually holds true.
Yeah, I mean, and just with like how weird, I mean, the majority of this generation has been with COVID. It would almost be kind of nice to see them just like not like literally cut their losses, because I think it's still been to some degree a moderately successful generation. But it'd be nice to just say, okay, this hardware jump wasn't as big as we necessarily wanted it to be. Here's the new hardware. And I mean, I'm sure developers already have whatever the next generation is going to be in dev kits. But just kind of cut this generation short, since it was kind of in my opinion, a marginal upgrade. And start new. Let the developers start working on big projects. I feel like we're just going to be, if we continue like on the current track, that everything is going to be not as impressive as it should be for a while.
Yeah. I think something that's I think relevant to how I expect this year to go, and kind of goes in hand with that, is that it feels like the like current cycle for creation is like it feels like stuff isn't intentionally being made for the current gen. It feels like everybody's just immediately jumping to like push as far as possible the boundaries of the generation, which isn't bad necessarily, but it causes then like the cycle in which they develop the game and everything like that to like be extended. And so, and we've seen like bloated budgets and stuff like that when it comes to these big games. And it's something that I expect to keep going, obviously. And it's something that I kind of admittedly don't love. Because I look at the year that 2023 was, and maybe this is just kind of the pessimist in me, but it feels like we're about to have a really dry year in terms of just like incredible releases and
Mhm.
like super noteworthy releases. It feels like already, and it's so unfair because we are, as of recording this, we are 2 days into the new year. But if it already just to me feels like this year is going to be like written off and forgettable in terms of game releases, um, which kind of sucks. Because like the momentum from last year just seems impossible to maintain. It'd be great if we could, but it just seems like so unlikely and so unreasonable. And there's a lot of stuff that went into the like why last year ended up being the year it was, right? Like, games that got delayed that it just lined up that they all then ended up releasing amidst one of the strongest GOTY lineups we've probably seen in some time and stuff like that, right? And so um curious, like what do you think? Do you echo what I think, or do you think I'm kind of I have too much of a doomsday thought?
No, I mean, I think it would make sense for this year to be a little more subtle than last year. We don't know of a ton of big releases this year, and it's not like a game is going to be, unless it's shadow dropped, which obviously could happen. I think we could probably get at least a handful of good shadow drops this year. But there's not really a whole lot coming out this year, I think, that we know we're excited about.
Yeah,
Um, which kind of makes me think it's a good hardware year.
yeah, it's a good point.
I want to pull up. I actually, admittedly, don't even have it in front of me. I want to pull up the list of stuff that is slated to come out this year.
While you do that, I another hardware point that we can make is obviously the Switch or whatever Nintendo's next console has been, rumored, and it would make sense to find out about it somewhat soon for a release of this year. So it'll be interesting to see if like these things come to fruition. And if that happens, there's bound to be a solid release lineup, you would think, for that console. But they could also somewhat take the easy way and just do a port of Super Mario Wonder and a port of Tears of the Kingdom and stuff like that. So it would just be interesting to see
Mhm.
how something like that is handled. But that could obviously mark uh, a trying to think of the right word. I don't know. Basically, it would point to some success for the year and something that you would be able to think back on. Also, somewhat related, but also not really. But just a way to make both of us feel a sense of dread. Apparently, the DS is going to be 20 this year.
What?
Yeah, isn't that insane?
2004? Does that make sense? I guess.
Yeah, released I think in November or December 2004,
That is,
depending on like market.
yeah. I mean, I remember the day my brother got the original DS, and yeah, we still lived in New York, so that made sense.
Just crazy to think about.
20 years old. That's stupid. Absolutely dumb.
um, but yeah, so I mean, that's something again that like we'd be able to point to as like a success for the year is if Nintendo releases a new console and releases some landmark games for it. But um, outside of that, I don't know. You said you were working on
Yeah,
writing up. Have you managed to get the list up?
I'm looking at a list from GameSpot, and the front half of the year has some stuff. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown is slated to come out January 18.
Okay.
Tekken 8, January 26. Let's see. And I'm honestly really just looking at new games here because of course, like I know people are Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, that's coming out the 24th. I think people are really excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League in February. Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I know that's not a new one, but I'm particularly excited for that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, another Final Fantasy game, 7 Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? That'll be up for the year, I'm sure. Princess Peach Showtime in March.
Okay.
There's another one here. People excited about Dragon's Dogma too. I feel like I heard about that.
Maybe it's a sequel, right? So there has to be some excitement for it, I would imagine. Dragon's Dogma, that was like PS3 era, right?
Yeah, I think so. Apparently there's another Destiny 2 content pack coming out. I thought that was done.
I think it got delayed, so
The final shape.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is the final. That's like the final DLC or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's June. The furthest out is September. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense that we wouldn't know a ton of release dates for tail end of the year just about yet, but
sure. But
yeah, I don't know. Even like just like looking at the front half though, it doesn't. I don't know. It's tough, right? Because we're gonna compare it to last year, and a lot of the major releases didn't release until late in the year, but felt like we knew about them well in advance.
There's really no like first party games here, like other than Nintendo. But there's no PlayStation, Xbox, big like first party games here. Oh, Skull and Bones. Can't forget that one.
Fuck.
Is Skull and Bones going to be up for Game of the Year?
It might have to be. It took 35 years to make it.
I feel like we kind of owe it to it at this point.
It's been 20 years. It will be the DS turns 20, and the announcement for Skull and Bones also turns 20 this year.
Really?
No.
Oh. You had me.
No, but it is probably turning 10. Whenever Black Flag came out, the following year, I think, is when they announced Skull and Bones. And
might as well be 20 at this point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're gonna get some first party games, I would imagine. I think is Stellar Blade PlayStation? Like, is that first party PlayStation, or is it just like they have the console exclusivity or something? I don't know, but
I'm not sure.
Again, like that question might get answered in a couple of weeks. Like, what is Sony gonna do? And based off of Xbox's Summer Games Fest showcase that they did in 2023, there was a lot of stuff in there, and I'd have to imagine, at least one of those games is releasing this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get Hellblade 2, I'm sure.
Yeah, that feels like it's on the cusp. Do we know a deadline? Not a deadline. Do we know like a rough timeline for Fable?
Not that I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, and maybe they had already said 2025. I don't know, but either way, it just feels like they showed so much. I would be shocked if none of those are going to be ready at some point this year, but who knows?
Yeah. We still have Stalker 2.
Yeah.
I mean, if that game doesn't come out this year, then it's going to get canceled. And that game was supposed to come out 2 or 3 years ago now.
Right.
And I get it. Ukrainian-based development team, but still, the market's unforgiving. Yeah, I mean, there's another one, Star Wars Outlaws,
Oh yeah. Okay.
that'll come out. New Flight Simulator. I mean, it's Flight Simulator 2024, so it'd be kind of embarrassing if it didn't come out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't feel the same level of hype. I don't feel like I think a couple of the games that you've brought up, I'm adding those to my list of, I will eventually get around to this game, but
Mhm.
certainly not even all the ones that you've said really call out to me. And, I'm assuming you're trying to go for the biggest ones. And every year there's like these sneaky good games and games that get underrepresented and end up being phenomenal and stuff like that. And, again, it is only 2 days in, so it's not unreal that we don't know um a ton of release dates just yet. But for any games that are going to be releasing, by March, you would think that we would have a decent idea. And so I don't know. It feels like it might be somewhat of a down year. And
Yeah.
again, it's completely fair, obviously. But
For me personally, perfectly happy with that.
I mean, yeah, of course, right? Like, uh, it's it is. I would say, yeah, for us especially, more of a blessing than a curse. Um, but you know how people get; they're always clamoring
Yeah.
for the next new and shiny thing, and I feel like that'll work against the industry as a whole this year. And I also think, like, um, to touch on the obvious, we talked about job losses and stuff like that throughout the industry, and then I think even after we recorded our end of year episode, um, which would have been last week's episode technically, uh, but between the time you and I recorded that and the end of the year actually happening, I think there was even another line of layoffs, like right before the holidays, like December 22nd or something like that, and I can't
Yeah,
remember
I
who
think
it
you're right.
was. um and I think like that's going to catch up with the industry as well, you know um and I think it's not unheard of to think it would be this year. Obviously we saw like the writers strike, um and then SAG strike against Hollywood, and so I wouldn't be too terribly shocked if we see some sort of strike happen um in the games industry.
Yeah. I, yeah, I don't know how that can be avoided at this point.
I mean,
I mean,
yeah.
I do know how it can be avoided, but I don't think
Right.
it will be.
Right, like the hand is going to be forced at some point, and I think just like looking at how last year went, and it doesn't really matter how you try to like split it, whether from operating standpoint, we like some of these cuts were out of necessity, right? Like I obviously don't run a business, so I couldn't possibly understand the intricacies of it all. But even with that said, uh I don't know how you look at like the sheer volume of last year and not expect there to be some sort of pushback.
Right. And maybe it was a lot of timing too. I mean, we're talking about how there's not really a whole lot of games coming out this year
Hmm.
compared to last year. And, I think last year was just about the final wave of like COVID delayed games.
Right.
And there was a ton of hiring for a while. Just to get these things out the door. Now the games are out the door, and unfortunately it's a product based business. So it's kind of how it goes. Yeah, and it just, it's not a very good economy anywhere right now either. It's not just in America; it's pretty much everywhere. Um, it's just it's a lot of compounding, I think.
Yeah.
But they're obviously do need to be some sort of concessions for people working in the games industry for clarity on what their job is. Like, if they're contractors, there needs to be a standard for um, what their scope of work is, what they're paid, how many hours they're supposed to put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for regular employees, I mean, there's got to be protections for them to not be treated like contractors.
Right. And calling out the industry for needing guide rails is nothing new, right? I mean, it's been a minute since we've had to talk about a terrible crunch culture or anything like that, but you know, there's long been need for guardrails, against and protections for the employees. So,
Yeah. I think the one thing that the games industry has the advantage in is that it's pretty well known that the standards of work have not been good.
mhm.
So they can get ahead of this if they don't want unions. I do think that developers can get ahead of this. Uh, and this is actually a relatively recent story too. I saw that there was the first Costco store to unionize. I think it might have been in North Carolina, um, somewhere down there. And Costco responded, and they're like, "We respect our workers' right to unionize, um, but we wish that we would have provided better standards so that they wouldn't have felt like they had to."
Yeah, they said that they were disappointed, and it wasn't in the fact that a union was created. It was the fact that they felt like they failed, and they felt like they failed their members because they felt the need to unionize.
Right. And I think that's the attitude you should have towards it
100%.
if a union decides to form. I mean, there shouldn't be a need for unions. And I do think that the gaming industry has an opportunity to get ahead of it, but I think they're in the last mile. I think if they don't do something soon, then we are going to see strikes and unions, and I think an organization, if it doesn't already exist, if it does, I'm not aware of it, so maybe they need to do a little more to be
Mm-hmm.
visible. But I don't know if there's like a SAG-AFTRA for video games. I've frankly never really heard of a major video game worker union. I think that organization still needs to exist,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of if there's a big strike or unionization or what. But I do feel like that does give the games industry more time to have subpar conditions because they don't really have an opponent.
Right. And what's so crazy is that um, since 2020, it's been well documented that gaming is like the leading entertainment industry, which is like insane to think about
Yeah.
because, more often than not, the thing that's going to be shoved down your throat is the music industry and movies. But I'm trying to look here real quick. Gaming industry is making more than 3 times as much money as the music industry and almost 4 times as much as the movie industry. I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy. It's absolutely incredible, right? Like it's what we've always wanted, gamers. Finally.
Mhm.
We're the big industry. Yet the gaming industry also constantly is acting like they're so small and feel bad for us. Like we're so little and we can only do so much and you don't expect too much from us. And it's like, no, like you're literally bigger than the movies and everything. Like there's kind of no reason for these things to continue to kind of come out. So yeah, so I think this year, and I kind of hope so too, right? Like I hope this is the year that it finally like shapes up and starts acting its age, starts acting its size, you know?
Yeah.
What else? Anything else you can think of, like, industry-wide?
I think we're gonna see some more from mobile gaming.
Yeah.
We know we have Apple's push. We should have Death Stranding coming to iPhones this
Crazy.
year, which is kind of crazy. But in the same vein, uh, it's not like it's always a direct port for modern games to come to a handheld device. I mean, you're working within significant spec constraints.
Mm-hmm.
You're essentially developing for another console now, and we've seen the personnel cuts, and I think it's the right idea at the wrong time because I don't think developers are going to know what to prioritize anymore.
Right.
Obviously, the mobile gaming market is huge now, thanks to the Steam Deck and, of course, the continued success of the Switch and the likelihood that a new Switch will be coming out within the next year. Um, I don't know. I feel like it's a big opportunity. I don't know who all the hardware players are going to be, and I don't know how the developers are going to take to um, the pressure to not prioritize to optimize games for handheld. But we do know that Xbox or Microsoft, more specifically, is working to create a good platform for Windows-based handheld devices
Mm-hmm.
to be able to run a portable Xbox app, which I think is really good for them.
Yeah, and it's a push that makes sense too. Like, even if you think about it on the most basic form, right? Almost everybody has one of these powerful devices in their pocket at any given moment, right? So trying to find a way to, like, capitalize on that base makes complete sense.
Yeah,
One thing you didn't call out, Netflix, they have their own games.
yeah, they do.
They have the GTA remake trilogy on there now.
Yeah, Oxenfree 2, which I'm actually pretty excited to play.
Yeah, so look out. Look out, games industry. Netflix is coming for you.
I can't wait till Netflix gets in trouble for something and then they do like the whole "oh, we're so small" thing like we're talking about.
Oh, feel bad for us.
We're the new guy in town.
We're so little. Um,
Oh, Reed.
what about VR? Do you think anything is going to push forward there?
I
Kind of feels like it's like
oh,
treading water almost. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
I
know.
think we're going to see continued success with the Meta Quest. I think that's been a hit. I think we're going to see that kind of become the only player in town,
Okay.
unfortunately. I love PSVR. It has been my favorite application of VR. I think the stories that are coming to VR is something that only Sony can do.
Right.
It's just not what the market wants. And it's really unfortunate.
Yeah,
And it kind of makes me hate the gaming market, but
it's
I am one among billions.
yeah, it's especially unfortunate to your point because, like, if PlayStation did a better job of making, like, PSVR like a more obtainable peripheral, it's perfect for its base and they can just capitalize within their own economy. And maybe you also bring some outside VR interest in, people who like the concept of VR and can kind of see, to your point, like some of the stories that only Sony would do. Um, and they, like, come and get the hardware. But I think, like, they've just made it so unobtainable that, like, you're now only capitalizing off of the whales within your own ecosystem.
Right.
Because anybody outside of the ecosystem now needs to pay for 2 PS5s to get in. And that just, seems like an unlikely battle to win.
Right. And just, the biggest complaint I think I hear is the cables.
Yeah.
I mean, with PSVR, you're hooked into your system. With the Meta Quest, you're not.
Yeah.
So I could see PlayStation developing for the Meta Quest. I feel like that's the end game here. I don't think it's what they intended.
Yeah.
But I think we're just going to continue to see. I mean, again, it's hard when you've got Apple putting chips in their phones that can play Death Stranding.
Yep.
We're going to see Meta putting chips in their headsets that can play PlayStation titles hypothetically. So yeah, I don't know. It's a hard balance because PSVR 2 has only been out for about a year now.
Right.
So it's hard to see them give up on it, considering they probably haven't recouped their investment. But it might be a losses cut situation. Another thing too, kind of in a similar vein of great ideas that just nobody wants. I think it's going to be the final year for cloud gaming at scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is I think my big prediction for the year. Luna will shut down. I think GeForce Now will be the last man standing.
Interesting.
Because I have heard that people like being able to play their PC collection on that platform, though I've heard that hype dying down quite a bit, especially now that the Steam Deck has become a thing.
Right.
And I think that xCloud will still exist, but it will be relegated to timed demos only.
Interesting.
I think we've already seen Microsoft start using some of the server space for other things. And it does, it does take much longer to connect now. I think more so in Europe. I haven't noticed it as much. I had one instance the other day where it took me forever to load a game. But yeah, I think Xbox is going to really buy in on developing the platform for mobile games. We know they might be coming out with a mobile game store possibly this year. And then, of course, with the Steam Deck and all of those apparatuses for handheld gaming, I think they're going to invest in that. And then xCloud will be available kind of like how it is on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series consoles, where you can try a game before you decide to download it on Game Pass.
I don't know. It's definitely it's a good prediction. Like but I kind of hope it doesn't go that way.
I hope it doesn't either. I just think it will.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I think we're going to see more cloud-enabled games. Like, I think that is going to be the premise of the next generation, which people will get pissy about. So we'll get into the whole always online conversation like we do every generation. But I think that will be a focal point of the next gen. But I don't think it's going to be cloud-only games.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's like it's so easy to get caught up in like solely focused on like the consoles or like PC gaming, but then to remember and realize that there are other areas that gaming touches, like mobile, like VR, like cloud. It'll definitely be interesting to see where they all go.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to assume that mobile is going to receive the most push. And that could, yeah, to your point, could lead to, cloud somewhat falling off and falling into a much different utilization. I'm trying to think if I have any bold predictions. I don't think I really do. The Switch 2 is actually just going to be a DS. It's going to have like a folding top to it, dual
Hey.
screen.
Wouldn't be against it.
They've done it before. They'll do it again, you son of a bitch. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Anything else from you?
Yeah, no, I think we covered it.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Happy New Year, everybody. And looking forward to another year of doing the podcast. Looking forward to another year of the games industry and hopefully some fun surprises. Shout out to Bobby Kotick, no longer being at Activision. Can we get a round of applause?
Clap, clap, clap.
Yeah, rip Bozo. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you could leave us a rating or a review wherever you did listen, it'd be greatly appreciated. Let us know if you have any bold predictions for the year of our gaming Lord 2024. And we'll talk to you next week.